Hello and welcome to this session on how to approach quants for CAT. So, some of you might have been part of our earlier webinar where we tackled the DILR section as far as CAT is concerned. For today, we look at what is section number 3 in the CAT exam, that's quants or QA or maths. So typically the way I conduct this session is that I give you a little bit of gyan because I like to keep it more of a Q&A session to try and see where I can answer your doubts more rather than giving you a lot of theoretical knowledge. So firstly, what we'll do is, okay, before I go ahead, I would like to say that just please give me a confirmation if you guys can hear me. So whoever is viewing this video right now, if you could type in your text box next to the screen whether you're able to hear me or not, then I'll go ahead so that we can avoid repetition. So I just pause for a second. Whoever is viewing, if people want to, let's say, let me know, just let me know if you can hear me clearly. Okay, so I assume that I'm audible enough. Having said that, okay, fine. So guys, I'll start with the section approach now. Firstly, as all of you must be aware by now, that this is the easiest section in the exam. You have 34 questions to be done in an hour. Now, typically when I take that and I say 34 questions in 60 minutes, you have less than 2 minutes per question. So obviously you're not going to be able to attempt all the questions. So what is the approach for this section? So keep in mind 2-3 practical things first. Firstly, this is the last section, which means you have already encountered 2 hours of the exam by this stage. Now, in those 2 hours, you have most probably gone through a moderate verbal ability section and then a difficult to very difficult DILR section. So remember that by the time you reach quants, you are already half dead as far as your mental ability is concerned. You're like, ये exam कब खत्म होगी? Okay, so what is by default an easy section? If you go to the questions of quant and see what is by default an easy section, also starts looking moderate. So the key here in any section of CAT is to switch on and switch off. Do not consider the test as one mock of 3 hours. You look at it as 3 mocks of 1 hour each. That is also because you cannot go and change your section. You cannot go and allocate additional time to quants or DILR or whatever. So you can do quants only in that 1 hour. So you need to keep that in mind. That will help you start off on quant in an easier manner. So we were at the point where we said that there are 34 questions to be done in an hour. How many should you attempt? That depends solely on 2 factors. One is what is your comfort level with this section, and 2, what is the average difficulty of this section. Broadly, I would say that I have been able, in the last 2 years, I have been able to attempt 21 to 22 questions in this section in the exam. But please keep in mind that I have nearly 12 years or 11 years of experience, and 2, I have nothing to lose. You guys are serious aspirants, so obviously you would need to take care there. So at a bare minimum, I would say try and target half the questions straight away. Now, is it possible? Yes. Why is it possible? So let me give you a rough breakup of the 2 CATs that I took in the last 2 years. I'm not going to the CATs before that because the pattern was different. So if I look at CAT 15 and 16, there were easily 12 to 13 easy questions in the exam. And there were 9 to 10 pure difficult questions in the exam. So if I look at that, you have 12 and 10, 22 questions, which are at extremes, 12 easy, 10 difficult. The remaining 12 fall in a very broad spectrum of easy to difficult. So they are broadly called moderate. But moderate में भी बहुत सारे cases होते हैं. You know, there are some questions which are tending more towards easy. There are some tending more towards difficult. Secondly, they depend on what is your core strength area. So what is easy to moderate for somebody. Let's say there is a question on arithmetic mean greater than equal to geometric mean. It might be very easy for somebody and it might be very difficult for someone who does not understand inequalities. So those are the kind of questions which would swing either ways. I would not like to focus on them in my first pass. I would really want to focus on the 11 to 12 questions which are easy. And I have seen that out of those 11 to 12 or 13 questions that I classify as easy, I would generally see that at least 6 to 7 are pure sitters. When I say sitters, these would be the kind of questions that I would probably have seen in a CMAT or a SNAP or maybe an MHCT with 4 options or that kind of a thing. Now you might wonder, ये CAT में क्यों है? But then remember that some of those questions are also asked in the form of what is called a numerical entry or a theta question. Okay, so coming to that part. Typically in the exam you will see out of 34 anywhere between 10 to 15 questions will be numerical entry. The remaining will be pure MCQ. So having looked at these facts, now let us look at what are the things that you need to do in the exam to identify these questions and to see how to go about it. What we'll do is I'll talk to you for another 5 minutes or so, and then you guys can start putting in questions so that I can give you very targeted and specific answers. So if you want, you guys can actually start typing your questions, no issues about that, while I take you through the generic approach for MCQs and numerical entry questions. Okay, so in the numerical entry questions, typically I have seen in the last 2 years that the actual question concept is fairly easy. So for instance, in both the years I have had questions from averages or ratio proportion or mixtures and alligation etc. which have been asked in numerical entry. Now there I have had questions like there is a group with so and so age or so and so wages and somebody goes out, somebody comes in. So XYZ hota hai and you need to find the new wage. You might say ये तो यार practice test का question ये CAT में कैसे आ गया? But the reason it is in CAT is that now you have no reference point to see what is the right answer. So here it purely works upon the fact that do you know the concept of how to solve a question? For instance, if I say that there is a question on averages where I say that the average age of so and so people is 30 years and a guy with age let's say 42 goes out and a guy with age 20 comes in or whatever, two guys with age 42 and 38 go out, then the very fact that both the guys going out are older than the average age will cause my average age to drop. In a typical MCQ question, I would say that okay, my new average age has to be less than 30. So any option which is 30 or above, I would eliminate. At least that much I could do. So even if I'm in the last minute of the exam, I could do that much and then try to solve. So option elimination would help in partially making the solution easier. But if the same question is asked as a numerical entry, then you would need to know how to logically approach this question or how to mathematically approach this question. What would be the impact if two guys would go out or if one guy is going out and one is coming in? Can you form the equation? Can you actually solve it and get an answer? Because there is no reference point. So yes, there will be some students who wouldn't need equations who would still be able to do it logically. But broadly, the numerical entry questions would test your understanding of the core concepts. They are less of logic, more of application of pure maths. So that is something you need to keep in mind. So technically, while they are easy for the guy who knows the basic formulae, the basic properties of maths. Let me give you a couple of examples more on these lines. Last year or the year before that, I think the year before that, I had a question on logarithms where I had something on log x square something to the base 2 and into log of x square something to the base 3, and then I had to solve it. Now it was a very easy question. You just had to use the log b to the base a has log b upon log a, वो सब करके आपको उसको solve करना था. So it was a 2 minute thing. But you needed to be sure that the approach that you're using, the formula that you're using is perfect. So if you weren't sure about that, आप कोई भी आंसर मार्क कर लो, you would not be sure about whether you're marking the right answer or not. Okay, for instance, in say a logarithms, people often do not know whether log a plus b, the whole of a plus b ka log is the same as log a plus log b. So can I open log a plus b as log a into log b, or can I open log a plus log b as log a into log b? These kind of things, these are small nuances that the guy forgets in the exam. That is one reason why numerical entry questions typically have LOD 1 questions, which is easy questions. The other reason, and this specifically applies to maths, is in the last 2 years I have seen one or two questions in the numerical entry section where the question was so damn easy that I had to read it thrice to convince myself that this is an easy question. You know, it's like saying, and I'll give you a cricketing analogy, let's say, that let's assume India is playing South Africa and South Africa needs 10 runs in the last over to win, and AB de Villiers and David Miller are batting. Now, in that case, if Virat Kohli himself comes out to bowl, the first thing AB de Villiers would be thinking is, boss, ये क्या कर रहा है? 10 रन चाहिए, हम दो सेट बैट्समैन हैं and we are destructive hitters. So why is somebody throwing me such an easy over? ये तो मैं ऐसे ही जीत जाऊंगा. Does this guy have some trick up his sleeve? You know, this one part, does this guy have a trick up his sleeve, is what causes you to waste time when you see an easy question in CAT. In the last 2 years, I have faced umpteen questions of this type, जहाँ पे question देखा, I felt अरे ये तो बहुत easy है. I read it again कि यार ये सच में easy है. And then you have to convince yourself कि नहीं ये सच में easy है, मैं ऐसे ही solve करके mark कर दूंगा. So, what is the objective of the examiner here? He's made you waste those 2-3 minutes. Plus, he's put that doubt in your mind. So that is what you need to be aware of when you're taking it in the exam. Of course, there are some questions which are look easy but are difficult. ये सारी चीजें आप practice से ही identify कर सकते हो. Till then you can't really identify that. Coming to the difficult questions, generally you will not be able to identify upfront whether this is difficult or easy, moderate. आप जब solve करने बैठोगे तभी आपको idea आएगा. But that is something again, when you practice more and more, when you analyze your mocks, you will realize that okay, किस type के question में difficulty होती है. So that's one aspect of it. So these are small things that you need to keep in mind. Now, because some questions are coming in, I'll start answering those questions, and some of the things that I might have wanted to say will get covered in this while answering these questions itself. However, if there is something that comes to my mind while answering, I'll let you know upfront. Okay, so let's start answering these questions. Okay, so Raghu says, I am able to solve around 20 questions after the mock, but I'm able to hit only 8 to 11 perfect. The remaining attempts are going in waste or going in vain, really. Okay, Raghu, then that is something. So I was happy reading 20 questions, but now I'm not so happy when I read that you're getting only 9 to 10 right. Because an accuracy of 50% in the exam is not something that I would be very happy with if I were to be teaching you. What I would say is that anyway, see, we now have less than 20 days. But if you have another 4 to 5 mocks, what I would probably tell you is go through the quant section in detail in the first 5-7 minutes or 10 minutes. See, you have an hour. if I divide 60 minutes by 15 questions, let's keep an internal target of 15 questions. तो अगर आपको 15 क्वेश्चन अटेम्प्ट करने हैं, you easily have 4 minutes per question. Now, even assuming that you, let's say, spend 10 minutes scanning the whole section, you still have 15 minutes, 50 minutes for 15 questions. So you easily have 3.5 minutes per question. That is more than sufficient time for a maths question in CAT. Okay, so you need to go through the section and probably bookmark or mark for review all those questions that you feel are easy. Once you attempt those questions in the exam, during your analysis, you need to check how many of them were genuinely easy, how many were tough, and how did you fare in them. In fact, to improve your scores or your accuracy, I would suggest that you do two things. One, in all the mocks that you've taken so far, go to the quant section and whatever, and this could be any test series that you have, test funda, time, IMS, whatever you have. Go to the analytics that your institute provides you. See the list of easy questions. So they would have told you question number 68, 70, 75, etc. is easy. See that list and then check how many of those did you attempt. That's first level. Secondly, check that the ones that you attempted, how many of those did you get right? Similarly, do this exercise for the tough questions. So as per their analysis, see which ones were the tough questions and see how many of those did you attempt and how many of those did you do right. Typically, when we set cutoffs, we expect that in the easy questions, the kid is supposed to attempt say 80% or 90% of these and then get another 85 to 90% right. Whereas in the tough questions, we say that the kid is probably going to attempt only 50% of these and get another 50% of those right. So net 25%. So then if you find out that there is a clear trend emerging whereby you are attempting more tough questions than required and fewer easy questions than required, then it doesn't help you. So that is one thing that you definitely need to see. Secondly, and equally important, the questions that you have got wrong in your last few mocks, go through each of those questions and try to solve it again without a time pressure and see why you got it wrong. Was it a silly mistake? Was it a wrong application of formula? Was it not understanding what the question is asking? Or is it that you didn't understand the question itself and just marked something? दूसरी एक बात होती है ये देख लो कि are you getting most of the questions wrong in numerical entry or MCQ, because that will again entail a different approach altogether. If your numerical entry is wrong, it means somewhere your concepts are wrong. If your MCQ is wrong, then probably you're not using the options wisely, or it's one of the reasons that I mentioned earlier. So you will have to do a very quick diagnosis. What you can do is do it for the last couple of mocks that you have taken. Maybe you can make a small table or notes or whatever, send us a photograph, and I might try and help you out. But you will first need to do that analysis for yourself. A Gaurav Dave or some other faculty anywhere or star faculty in the coaching classes might guide you in terms of these are the things you can do. You know, it's like the gym trainer. He might say eat this, walk out this way, etc. End of the day, it's you have to first identify कि मेरे body को या मेरे preparation को किस चीज की जरूरत है, how do I go about it, right? So do the diagnosis, then let's have a chat on this again. Vinayak says I am okay in quant, like I'm able to okay, so same question that Raghu had. So Vinayak, in your case, if you're keeping this in mind and your silly mistakes are happening, then you need to look at each chapter and identify which are the chapters where your accuracy level is the least. So try and go through each of those mocks, maybe again make a table or something and see which chapters have an accuracy level of less than 50% and which chapters have an accuracy level of more than 50%. That by itself will give you a lot of points for preparation. Because you will easily come to know that, okay, chapters A, B, C, D, number theory, quadratic equations, geometry, PNC is where I'm going wrong. So then you can possibly ask yourself, why am I going wrong here? Whereas chapters like averages or time, distance, etc. are going right, then fine, that is okay. So sometimes we end up thinking and then working on the same things which you are doing well, तो वो और अच्छा होते जाता है. Whereas our weak areas don't improve, so they start regressing. That is what happens. So in your case, I would suggest that break down your analysis on a chapter to chapter approach. So you possibly will get in your analytics, whether us or anywhere else, you will possibly get a report that tells you, or you might have to do some manual work to identify what is your accuracy level and attempt level in each chapter. Samragni says that if quant is my weakest area, how many attempts are needed to clear the sectional cutoff? Okay. Uh, so if quant is your weakest area, Samragni, I would need to know how weak is it. In the sense that what is the number of questions that you are able to attempt and what is your accuracy. For example, if you are able to attempt less than 10 questions, then yes, we are in deep trouble. If you are able to attempt somewhere around say 12 to 13 questions, then it's a slightly borderline case. We can probably try and push it up by another 2-3 questions. If you are at 15-16 questions like Vinayak and Raghu said, and your accuracy is an issue, then again that is something you need to tackle differently. So that's one thing that we need to see. So I would again, in your case, I would recommend that you give me that kind of data, maybe not now, but after the session, and we could have a look at it. And again, see, so in all your case, okay, generally, to all the guys who are sitting here and watching this or will see this later, I would say the first thing you need to do is look at two important parameters. Your attempt percentage for each chapter, followed by your accuracy percentage for that chapter. The percentage of the two, it's like A% of B% of 100. So that will tell you where you stand in that chapter. And looking at these two parameters will tell you where you need to find the trade-off. So I guess maybe not for all the mocks, but for the last 3-4 mocks that you have taken, you need to try and bifurcate all your chapters. That will help you a lot. And if you guys are able to do it, and then if you need it, I would say you need to just try to support. And I could probably have a very quick, half an hour session again a few days down the line to help you out. But for that, you need to have data in your hand. Okay. Before I forget, in fact, for some of you guys, what I'll also do is next week on the 15th, 16th, and 17th. That is today's what 8th. So next Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 15th, 16th, 17th, I am going to take a particular mock, and each day I'll probably solve one section to tell you how I approach the section. So how do I identify the easy questions? How do I identify the tough questions? So I'll probably do a live video initially, and then we can have a quick Q&A as we are having right now. So that will help you a lot. So between today and next Wednesday, I would suggest do this homework where I've asked you for data, and come back to me. I'll give you my contact details as well. Come back to me and I'll try and guide you there. Okay. Faisal has this question. That post the mock, I see 7 to 8 level 3 questions which I'm not able to understand. So does it make sense now to spend time on those to gain familiarity? Faisal, if you do have some time and you want to solve them, then it's okay, because even these difficult questions can be divided into various categories. So for instance, there were some that you solved halfway through and किसी एक point पे अटक गए कि this typically happens in geometry, that इतना कर दिया लेकिन ये एक data point में नहीं ढूंढ पाया, तो इसके जैसे अटक गया. So either I couldn't solve it या I did it incorrectly. तो वो देख लो कि मैं अटका था वहां पे, what was the key that was stopping me, or what was the point where I got stuck. There will be some जहां पे कुछ भी नहीं समझा. So that is something that you should definitely read, because आपको एटलीस्ट एक आइडिया आएगा कि इस टाइप के क्वेश्चन में what is the approach. So in these questions what you really need to look at is approach. तो ये जरूरी नहीं कि आप उसको पूरी तरह सॉल्व करो, बट एक गो थ्रू कर लो टू गेट एन आइडिया कि इसमें अप्रोच क्या यूज होता है. Okay, Ankish says I have maintained a notebook of question. Uh, okay, Ankish says that I have maintained a notebook of questions which has important questions from past mocks. Should I solve all these or just go through and see the tips and tricks? Ankish, if you have maintained a notebook, nothing like it. This is something I am going to dhapofy from you and tell students later. So thank you for this. But if you haven't solved them earlier, then you should definitely try and solve them once. If you tried to solve them again but were stuck, मतलब समझा ही नहीं तभी तो भी solve कर सकते हो. But if you solved them earlier and got it wrong और सही आया लेकिन approach अलग है तो then look at the tips and tricks part. So divide your work into different stages. Was I able to solve it then? Was I able to solve it now, etc. So those are things you will need to really look at. Faisal is saying, I know it's not the LRDI. Please answer these two questions. Faisal, which questions? Because I can't see any LRDI stuff here. So let me just. Okay. I got your question. So I'll just look at these. You've asked three questions. I spent 10 minutes to read a section, then go to attempt it, but I'm left with 10-12 minutes after having three sets. Then panic happens and I mess up. I have stopped taking sectional tests for DILR as I'm done with strategy. Now I'm going to solve only 2-3 sets, mock sets in the next 2 weeks. I've started watching videos of different DILR sets solved by various coaching institutes. Yeah, so Faisal, more or less all of this looks good because end of the day, if this is helping you, then this is a good strategy. The only thing I would comment at is that if you are left with 10 to 12 minutes after having solved three sets, then it's a reasonable time because 45 minutes is what even I sometimes take to solve three sets. 45 to 47 minutes. So then the only thing you need to ensure is you need to be clear in your mind पहले से कि what is the fourth set that you will solve. Typically when you're saying panic sets in होता क्या है, people start अच्छा ये सेट ठीक लगा चलो स्टार्ट कर दिया देन दूसरा एक अच्छा लगा स्टार्ट किया तीसरा अच्छा लगा स्टार्ट किया नाउ दे हैव नॉट सीन द रिमेनिंग 5 सेट्स सो इन द लास्ट 15 मिनट्स जो विजुअली मतलब देखने पे लग रहा है कि हाँ ये सिंपल है उससे शुरू करते हैं मान लो 6-7 मिनट बाद उसमें अटक गए तो देन पीपल गो एंड स्टार्ट समथिंग एल्स फिर 2-3 मिनट में लगता है भाई ये भी मेरा कंप्लीट नहीं होने वाला तो छोड़ दो आई गिव अप टिपिकली दैट इज व्हाट हैपेंस विद पीपल. So again, I tell people to tentatively identify that ये चार सेट मुझे इस सेक्शन में देखने हैं. So that is something that I try and do in DLR. You might want to try that in a mock or so. In a tough mock, you will be able to solve around 3 questions, 3 sets. In the easy mocks, you will be able to solve around 5 sets. Okay, Samragni has that question and Vinayak has the same question that what percentile can be considered good? My percentile is 95 to 97. Okay, so Samragni, see let me make one thing very clear and I'll be very honest here. A 97 or 98 year does not automatically mean that you will get a 97 or 98 in CAT. Two reasons for that. One, it is a mock. Two, the number of students that we have, and no doubt we do have a lot of high quality students, serious aspirants, but the number of students that we have who are taking the mock is always going to be much less compared to CAT. Sorry, it's also going to be less compared to a couple of very big players. Okay, so if you see a 97 year and I say that नहीं नहीं आपको 97 आ ही जाएगा, then it would be kidding myself and you. So I would say that जो भी percentile आता है you can probably drop it down by say 4 to 5 percentage points. अगर आपको वो देखना है तो कि हाँ ठीक है 98 इधर आया तो look at 93 or 94. But otherwise I would say focus more, and I always say this, people who've heard me earlier would know I always say this, that in the mocks really focus on your attempts, your accuracy and your score. Those are the parameters that are standalone important as far as your mocks are concerned. Percentile that you get here is just an indicator. It does not mean that you will get the same kind of percentile. no matter whether you're taking a time mock or an IMS mock or a CL mock or a test funda mock, whichever it is. I have seen people who were, toppers in say ProcCats or SimCats or iCats or wherever, and they've ended up with a 96 percentile in CAT. अभी दिखने में तो दोनों अच्छा लगता है 99 भी और 96 भी. But in the actual exam, if somebody has a 96, then he knows that he's not going to get the top IIMs ka calls, right? So it's a game of very small margins. Rather than focusing the margins which are not in your control, I would say focus on the things that are in your control. Your score, attempts, accuracy. Okay, let me go to the next few questions. So I answered Faisal's questions. Then, yeah, Samragni is come back saying 10 to 12 attempts and 8 to 9 right. So Samragni, your accuracy is good, because if I consider 9 out of 12, then it's approximately, or it's 75%. So anything around 70 is decently good. Of course, in a small sample, pulling it to 80-85 would mean that 10 out of 12 or 11 out of 12. So what you need to do is focus on attempts now, without compromising on accuracy. So in your case, कौन सा analysis आपको काम लगेगा? In your case, you need to see LOD1, मतलब easy questions, how many attempts do I have? And which are the easy questions that I missed out? Is it that I missed out because मुझे नहीं आते थे, या is it that I missed out because मैंने उसको ठीक से देखा ही नहीं, मैंने just मतलब वो छूट गए मुझसे. Again, the other aspect, how many difficult questions did I attempt? Is it that the questions that I attempted ended up being the difficult ones or the moderately difficult ones? So you need to look at that aspect. That will probably help you identify easily 3 to 5 questions per mock जो आप attempt कर सकते थे. And it will also help you identify 2 to 3 questions per mock जो आपको शायद attempt नहीं करने चाहिए थे but आपने attempt किए. So that analysis will be more than helpful for you. Okay, there is somebody called ANFST. Okay. I am able to attempt 15 questions, out of which I get 12 right. LRD I get 10 out of 15. Verbal 20 and 12. So, okay, boss, your case, clear accuracy issue. In quant, I would say not really so much. 12 out of 15 is decent. अब जितना मैंने अभी बोला है, look at LOD1, look at LOD3, chapter wise distribution करो, etc. So that both these things, if you see, you will probably go up by 2-3 questions in quant easily. In DILR, 15 is a decent attempt. 10 out of 15 again borderline decent. You probably then need to see कि उस सेट में आप कोई गलती तो नहीं कर रहे, because DI typically ऐसा होता है कि अगर सेट हो गया तो आपको हर एक में 3-3 क्वेश्चन तो आ ही जाएंगे, तो 12 तो वही हो गए. And then you might not be able to attempt one question per set, but 12 to 13 is what you need to look at. So then possibly my guess is that you're getting the conditional questions wrong in LRDI. That is what you need to look at. In verbal, I am a little worried because your attempts are fine, your accuracy is going for a toss. So there you will need to speak to your verbal teacher and see which specific chapters or question types is where you're going wrong. Or is it that you're selecting the wrong RC to attempt? Or is it that you just didn't understand the question? Or in verbal, especially in the RC, inferential questions in RC, typically the options are such that you can eliminate every option by the nuance of 1 or 2 words here and there. Again, when I look at the verbal section tomorrow and on the 17th, I'll talk about this in slightly greater detail. But this is something that you need to keep in mind in verbal. So in your case, the approach for each section would be verbal, focus on question selection and accuracy. Quant, focus on attempts. DILR, focus on accuracy. Ankish, I will be sharing my contact details after the session, so you can write to support and get the contact details, or I will be sharing it right away. Then yeah, so where was I? Okay, Akshay Rahane says I am not able to segregate the easy, moderate and difficult questions in the mocks. I solve questions one after the other. So how to scan? Okay, Akshay, there is no fixed formula for this. And the reason there is no fixed formula for this is what is easy for me is not necessarily easy for you. So I have friends who are functions champs. Means they see a question on function and कूद पड़ेंगे उसमें कि चलो let's do this. And I am somebody who's been teaching maths for 12 years and I see functions and I start running away. So I have very clear cut strong points कि I try and target arithmetic, I try and target geometry, probably a PNC, linear, quadratic, etc. And there are some question types that I hate. तो वो मैं नहीं करता. So that personal aspect comes into the picture for everybody. But if you look at the quant section in CAT right now, see in that your question makes a lot of sense because in XAT, that question इतना deceptive होता है कि समझ ही नहीं आता इसमें क्या करना है. In CAT nowadays, I would say there are easily 7 to 8 questions in the exam that can be classified as pure sitters. Okay, I can give you one homework. What you can do is if you have R mocks, and this is something that will help you if you have R mocks simply because I have an analysis. So I'm not saying that my mock is better than somebody else, but मेरे पास एक analysis है इसलिए I can help you. Go to the mocks ICATs 1 to 9 at least for today. सेक्शन खोलो एंड अपने हिसाब से एक लिस्ट बनाने की कोशिश करो कि मेरे हिसाब से ये क्वेश्चन इजी है. Now go to YouTube and there are these videos that we've put up where we've given very short analysis of these mocks. And there in the quant section, I have put a table that says that these were the easy questions in quant. Check your list with that table's list. If your match in that list is less than 20 to 30%, then you clearly know that you have a problem with question selection. Go to those questions and see why you found them difficult. So you will need to do a slightly more detailed analysis there. Pick up any 1 or 2 mocks, randomly उठा लो 9, 7, 4, whatever suits. But ये थोड़ा सा आपके judgment call पे आएगा, थोड़ा सा आपके understanding पे आएगा. So even what I do is I also go sequentially. I open question 1, get a fair idea. अच्छा ठीक है, go to question 2. अभी कोई question ऐसा होता है that मुझे देख के ही पता चल जाता है यार ये तो बहुत इजी है, तो मैं उधर ही खड़े खड़े सॉल्व कर देता हूँ. कोई क्वेश्चन होता है कि नहीं ठीक है इसको बाद में देखते हैं बट ये इजी लग रहा है, सो आई मार्क फॉर लेटर और मार्क फॉर रिव्यू एटसेट्रा. So that is why I go from question number 67 to question number 100, and whatever I feel, the key word here is feel. Whatever I feel is an easy question, I mark it. So ये मेरा 7-8 मिनट 10 मिनट में हो जाता है. Then I start going to that question and I spend a cool half an hour looking at these 10-12 questions because these are the ones who are going to give me marks. So those questions is what I need to target. तो ये आपको उस हिसाब से ट्राई करना पड़ेगा. Hamza has 2 questions here. Quant is my weak point. If I learn shortcuts for every chapter, it does not click at the time of mock test. Okay. Hamza, I'll tell you what I used to do as a student and what I still do. Frankly, if you ask me, in lot of cases, I don't use shortcuts in the exam, or I'm not saying that I don't use, but I am slightly uncomfortable with shortcuts. So whichever chapters I'm comfortable, I use them. Whichever chapters I'm not comfortable, I don't use them because I'm not very sure. So it starts affecting my confidence level. Remember that in the exam, a lot of things that you do are related to your mental framework, then your knowledge of maths. तो आप उसमें फोकस करो कि नहीं मुझे इसको शॉर्टकट से ही करना है, तो you might end up putting a more pressure on yourself rather than solving the question. आपको लगता है मैं इसको logically कर सकता हूँ, तो ठीक है. See, I'll give you an example. Sometimes what happens is in the exam I'm doing a sequences series question on GP, and that will also answer your second question कि geometry I don't remember formulae. I'm doing a sequences series question on GP. तो कभी कभी मैं भूल जाता हूँ कि अरे इनफाइनाइट जीपी का सम है या फाइनाइट जीपी का सम है क्या है, या nth टर्म तो ठीक है इजी है बट सम say the mean term of an AP, ऐसा कुछ मैं भूल गया मान लो, तो देन आई वंडर अभी फॉर्मूला याद करूँ क्या करूँ, तो मैं खुद एक छोटा सा जीपी ले लेता हूँ, 4 टर्म्स, 2 4 8 16, एंड देन आई डिराइव द फॉर्मूला देन एंड देयर. So I say, okay, if this is the formula, so I know 2 4 8 16 है, उसका सम ये आने वाला है, तो I use this formula, सम आ रहा है नहीं आ रहा है, use this formula, सम आ रहा है नहीं आ रहा है. Again this comes from practice, but this is an approach that works for me. It might not necessarily work for everybody, but yes, what you need to understand is in school, if you remember geometry में whatever we did, we were taught derivations. So you need to understand more than the formula. You need to understand how it is arrived at. स्कूल में तो हम लोग स्टेप बाय स्टेप आधे आधे each step had half mark allocated to it and you used to write there for this, there for that. तो जरूरी नहीं कि आप वो derivations लिखो, but understand how it comes. That will be more important. And for geometry, make down a list of top 30-40 formulae that are given to you. उसमें से जो याद रहते, there will be some that you will be able to club. For instance, मैथ्स में काफी बार क्वेश्चन आता है, how many acute angle triangles can you make with a perimeter of so and so or with one side as 15. So people start wondering, but there the only thing that you need to know is कि acute angle triangle में मेरा a square plus b square का c square के साथ क्या रिलेशन होना चाहिए. So it will be greater. Obtuse है तो it will be less or vice versa. Right angle है तो equal. So for 3 types of triangles there will be 3 equations. For area of triangle, so classify these formulae into groups. कि अगर मेरा area of triangle है, there are at least 4 to 5 ways in which you can get area of triangle. There is half base height, then there is half into AB into sine of the angle between them. Then there is Heron's rule where we use only the sines. Then there is a way of doing it using determinants where we use the coordinates of the point. Again, using coordinates you can get the 3 equation, find the length of the side, and then use Heron's formula. If there is an in center that is given to you, तो भी आप कर सकते हो. So there are 5-6 approaches. You need to know what are those approaches. Then basic triangles. Triangle क्या होता है? Triangle किसी भी polygon का एक basic smallest part है. A polygon is something that has multiple sides. So a triangle is a polygon with 3 sides. तो जो फॉर्मूले उस पे अप्लाई होते हैं वो इस पे भी अप्लाई होने वाले हैं. A typical example that I'll give you. Lot of people are not sure what is the interior angle of a polygon. एग्जाम में मैं भी अगर भूल गया या sum of all interior angles of a polygon, तो I start with a triangle कि 180 है. अगर मैं 180 में n-2 into 180 करता हूँ और n को 3 डाल दिया ट्राइंगल के लिए, तो I'm going to get 3 minus 2 into 180. आ गया. स्क्वायर है 360 होने के लिए 4 minus 2 हो जाएगा. पेंटेगन है तो 5 minus 2 into 180 हो जाएगा. अभी वो 540 हो गया. 540 डिवाइड बाय 5 किया तो 108 डिग्री आ गया. हेक्सागन में 720 डिवाइड बाय 6 120 हो जाएगा, एंड सो ऑन. सो देन I club the formulae together. There I don't divide into triangle and quadrilateral. I club them together and I see what forms logically into groups. Similarly, when it comes to circles, there is a set of formulae that is related to arcs. There is a set of formulae that is related to tangents. Then there is a set of formulae related to tangents and secant. अभी जैसे tangent secant theorem ही ले लो, तो there will be 3 places where it intersects, and तीनों में similarities है. If it intersects outside, तो क्या होता है? If there is intersection inside, तो क्या होता है? एक tangent है और एक secant है, तो क्या formula होता है? All of it comes from the same property. So if you understand that property, you can derive the formula. If you just ratify the formula, then you're dead. Please understand this difference. That will help you to a large extent. Okay, Karthik's question is, how good is getting percentile about 99 in ICATS? So Karthik, of course, that is a good achievement. I would say broadly, if you're getting a 99 right now, then you're all set to get a 94, 95, kam se kam in the actual exam. But with a little bit of effort here and there, you can push that to 99 as well. How close are ICATs to the main CAT? So each ICAT is, I would say, derived on the basis of CAT 16 and 15, but the difficulty level for various sections is calibrated in a different manner to give you, it's like saying I create 25 combinations of last year's CAT and design these ICATs. कि ओके एक मॉक में DILR is slightly tougher but बाकी तो exact same level पे. एक मॉक में DILR is slightly easier, quant is slightly tougher. So we create different levels of difficulty which would be marginally keeping in lines with what CAT had, and then give you these to give you an experience of each possible combination that could possibly come. Okay, so that is how it is designed. So broadly I would say that if you are practicing one ICAT, then yes, it might not be on the lines of the main ICAT because it will be one variant. But if you're practicing at least 20 out of the 25, then more or less you've covered all the possible difficulty combinations that you could encounter in the exam. Okay, Vinayak has a question. Would you suggest that I should go again through some of my weak topics from the start, or should I just solve questions and learn approach from questions only? Okay, Vinayak, if it is a weak topic, then by default it means that there is some area within the topic where you are conceptually going wrong. Okay, unless there is some weak topic where you're conceptually damn strong and आप silly mistake कर रहे हो, then frankly I would like to bash you up. कि बहुत strong topic में कोई silly mistake नहीं करता. But if you are conceptually weak, then it makes a lot of sense to spend 2-3 days even at this stage and brush up their concepts. And if you are saying stuff like averages, TSD, PNC, see, probability is something that typically I don't see much in the exam. A lot of faculty say probability is not in CAT's syllabus. Now, frankly, there is nothing like CAT's syllabus, but it has not come in the last 2 years, so it's okay. That does not mean कि नहीं आ सकता. Please keep this in mind. But areas like averages, time, speed, distance is something that you should be able to solve quickly. For a lot of people who find TSD difficult, I would say improve your understanding of purely two concepts in time, speed, distance. आपका अभी का level अगर 40% है, it will shoot up to 60 to 70% easily. The first concept that you need to really understand in TSD is proportionality of distance equal to speed in time में जो proportionality का effect होता है कि when there are three related formula there. When distance is constant, speed time is inversely proportional. When speed is constant, distance time are directly proportional. When time is constant, distance speed are directly proportional. अब होता क्या है, a lot of time speed distance questions use purely these properties. The key is trying to identify कि ये part of the question में ये तीनों में से कौन सा parameter constant रह रहा है. Accordingly, you need to identify the approach. So, you have those questions कि बस है यहाँ से वहाँ जा रही थी and then something happened and it went slower and all those things. So then you need to identify कि okay, at this point तो सब कुछ ठीक था. Now when it went slower, so what is happening? The distance between those 2 points is remaining constant जहाँ accident हुआ वहाँ से end तक. So which means if it is going slower, the time is going to increase. तो यहाँ पे inverse proportionality आएगी. Then of course, depending on the data given in the question, you need to figure out how to form the equation. But the first thing to note is what is the parameter that is constant. That will automatically define how the other two parameters will vary with each other. That this also applies to questions on leaps, questions on races, because races में होता है कि somebody beat somebody by so much time. So much time मतलब क्या हुआ? Same distance travel कर रहे हैं, but one guy is reaching 10 seconds after the other. So the time is varying. Time जिस तरह vary हो रहा है, उसका exactly उल्टा speed vary होगा. Somebody beat so much, some person by so much distance. तो अगर distance से beat कर रहा है, which means same time में अलग अलग distance cover कर रहा है. तो अब time same हो गया, distance अलग है, तो accordingly speed का ratio मिलेगा. So these are the kind of things you need to keep in mind. So whether it is questions on races, leaps, downstream, upstream movement of boats, etc. All of these, one aspect that is important is proportionality of DST or TSD. The other aspect is relative speed. Are the bodies moving in opposite direction, in the same direction? And this उसका एक sub aspect होता है, is an external object helping the motion or opposing the motion, which is basically the river flow or speed of stream, या wind, या escalator के steps, etc. So ये दो तीन चीजें आपको टाइम स्पीड डिस्टेंस में ध्यान रखनी है. Similarly, when you look at time and work, you need to look at it कि मैं यूनिट वर्क के बेसिस पे काम करूँ, या फिर अगर दोनों का टाइम दिया है तो should I use an LCM approach and assume a number of units of work and solve this. So both these things would help. ये छोटी छोटी चीजें आपको ध्यान रखनी पड़ेगी. Faisal, okay, Shivam says, just a second, where was I? I'm so sorry. Yeah, Shivam says 25 attempts, 20 correct, good or bad? Shivam, reasonably good. In fact, I would say compared to a lot of people that I generally interact with, quite good. I would be slightly more happy if it was 22 attempts, 20 correct. अगर आप 25 attempt कर रहे हो, try and pull up the correct to 22. So you are nearly there, marginal 5% improvement here and there. Okay. Yes, no comments on your comment. Vinayak, you have said, is there a session for this like on verbal? Of course, yes, there is one session tomorrow for verbal, which is a broad generic session like this one. And there is another session where I will be taking an actual verbal section next week, which is, if I remember correctly, it is next Friday. Same time, 4 p.m. Okay, Kishan's question, and Kishan is unhappy with me because I missed his message. So Kishan, my bad for that. But if this is a message before it, I'll tell you how close are the ICATs compared to actual CAT. So I just answered it some time back, saying that the broad spectrum of the ICATs that we have covers all the possible difficulty levels that CAT can throw at you. So we have, calibrated each ICAT at different difficulty levels. Broadly, there are 5: difficult, moderate to difficult, moderate, easy to moderate, easy. तो हर एक में उसके variations होते हैं. In terms of question style, more or less similar to CAT, we've tried to retain. There might be occasional variations here and there to give you practice. Okay, so somebody who's able to attempt 19 to 22 and score 48 plus on an average, how is he expected to fare in the actual exam? Frankly, I would say if you are doing this right now, Kishan, you're on the right track. I would say if you're scoring 48 right now in our mocks, then I think you should be able to reach 50 in the exam. I don't predict percentiles, I'm not in that business, but 49, 50 is what I would really look at, because I have seen slightly easier questions in the CAT compared to our mock. If I have still missed your question, Kishan, please do let me know, I'll answer it. Okay, Samragni is saying my arithmetic, geometry, PNC is good. My algebra is bad. Can I ignore algebra now? Samragni, you can ignore algebra in the mocks or in the actual exam, but do not ignore it in terms of your practice, because that might end up hurting you badly if the examiner on that day is an algebra freak. Typically, see, you might see 8 to 9 algebra questions or 10 algebra questions in the exam. अब कोई algebra प्रेमी अगर आ गया जिसने पेपर बनाया है और उसने 16-17 क्वेश्चन डाल दिए, because there's no quota system in CAT के arithmetic का इतना quota होता है, algebra का इतना होता है, उसने डाल दिए, then you're dead. And let me give you an actual example from my engineering days. In my first year, in a horror subject called mechanics that we had, we all used to study something called kinetics of moving bodies and kinematics of moving bodies. So हर साल kinematics used to come for some 35 marks and kinetics used to come for some 2 marks. So everybody focused on kinematics, prepare किया, all said and done. Kinetics सब लोग छोड़ के आ गए. In the exam, kinematics came for exactly 3 marks, one short note question, and bloody kinetics came for 36 marks in the exam. And including me, lot of students were crying because we left that area totally in terms of concepts. So the point that I'm trying to reiterate right now is that don't leave the concepts of those chapters. You might not want to focus on those questions in the exam, but at least उसके basic concept आपको पता होने चाहिए. Okay, so Akshay, if you have ICAT mocks as you're saying, then good, you will be able to analyze a lot. Aldrin has a question. Aldrin, I hope my pronunciation of your name is fine. So ICAT 5, total 66 marks, verbal correct 7, attempted 17, DI 10 out of 12, quant. Okay, so Aldrin DI and quant attempts will probably need to go up. In both those cases, you will need to see the thing that I've repeated umpteen times today, but I'll say it once again for your benefit. You'll need to see if you're missing out easy questions and focusing more on the tough questions. That's one thing. Second, you'll need to see are you missing out on chapters that you like. In verbal, you'll definitely need to see where you're going wrong because there is a clear-cut accuracy issue. Your accuracy is less than 50%, which is frankly not acceptable. So there you'll need to see where you went wrong. Is it understanding of the question, missing the nuances of the inferential question, etc. Okay. Vinayak's question is, I have ICATs and one other test series. So, what do you suggest should be the frequency, like daily or after 1-2 days? Well, at this stage, with some 17 odd days to go, frankly, 1-2 days is fine. If you are able to do it daily with the same kind of focus, then yes. If you feel that ICAT solving is becoming like हाँ ठीक है यार ये तो रोज का रूटीन है या करना पड़ रहा है मतलब मुझे खत्म करना है, then don't do that. The minute you go into that ये मुझे खत्म करना है वाला mode, don't solve it every day because it will somewhere psychologically also affect your performance on D-Day. So you have to keep yourself fresh for that day as well. Vivek's question is, what is an ideal question attempt and accuracy in quant for a 99 percentile in CAT? Well, Vivek, nobody can really predict that, but looking at the difficulty level of the last 2 years, I would say anywhere between 20 to 25 attempts with approximately 90% accuracy is a good performance. The more you pull it towards 25, and the higher accuracy of around 22 or so, then it's really good. I know people who've pulled it up to 30 as well, but the people I know are also faculty. So I wouldn't ask you to pull it up to 30, but 25 is what you can really target if you're looking for a 99 plus percentile. Okay. So AFNS is back that I am unable to attempt PNC and probability most of the time. Would it be wise to prepare? Look, probability, as I said, hasn't come in the last 2 years. So if you are weak at it right now, it's absolutely okay if you leave it. Just know the basic concepts. Just to, if you heard my tragic example of mechanics in my engineering days, that is the point I'm coming to. So don't solve it or don't practice too much, but know the basic formulae and properties. PNC is something you can practice because nowadays in CAD you often get easier questions. You just have to be meticulous enough. बाकी अगर आप सब अच्छा कर रहे हो तो that is again something that you can keep aside for CAD. Know the basics. Okay, Vikrant's question is, what comes under strategy? What all are the factors comprising strategy? Taking mocks at a given slot is must or not? Okay, Vikrant's strategy is frankly too wide a word for me to explain in one session. Broadly, I would say, what are the factors that come in strategy? So I'll answer your easiest question first. Taking mocks in your given slot is a must at this stage. You should take it in that slot. People who looked at my last webinar or who interacted with me regularly would know that I always say this. Please take the mock in your actual exam slot once you have your admit card in hand. Then do not take breaks. All your breaks, all your activities, eating, going to the loo, talking to your girlfriend or boyfriend, or talking to your parents, or whatever you have, should take a backseat at this time. So if it's 9 to 12, you sit at 8:30, not at 9. अंडरस्टैंड दिस बिकॉज एग्जाम में ये मेरे साथ होता है हमेशा। वो 8:15 से वो लोग वो लैब में बिठा देते, एसी में आप बैठे हो, एसी में ठंड होती है, उसके बाद 8:45 को आपको वॉशरूम जाना पड़ता है, फिर ठंड होती है, वापस 9 बजे जाना पड़ता है। तो सिट एट 8:15, punish yourself for 45 minutes, sit at that place, learn to be quiet. That will actually put you in that zone. Learn to be quiet, keep your books away, mobile away, calculator away, everything away. 9 बजे टेस्ट स्टार्ट करो, 12 बजे तक उठो ही मत, 12 बजे उठने का जो करना है करो, but that is how you need to practice. Now when I look at the other questions, what comes under strategy, then yes, you need to look at what, when I say strategy, you need to have an approach. Okay, what is my plan? Basically, when we say strategy, we are not fighting a war. So you need to have a plan in place. And that plan has to be so flexible that it can change every 5 minutes in the exam, depending on what comes in the exam. तो अगर आप प्लान बनाओगे कि नहीं मैं सबसे पहले एवरेजेस ही करूंगा एंड एवरेजेस का क्वेश्चन नहीं आया तो क्या, सो यू नीड टू हैव अ प्लान ए बी सी डी, बहुत सारे प्लान होने चाहिए। नाउ यू कैन नॉट हैव 10 प्लान्स रिमेंबरिंग देम इन द एग्जाम। तो आपको करना क्या पड़ेगा, एक बेसिक अप्रोच बना लो कि ब्रॉडली आई एम गुड एट ज्योमेट्री, सो आई ट्राई टू स्टार्ट विद दोज क्वेश्चंस। बट एक बैकअप होना चाहिए कि अगर ज्योमेट्री एग्जाम में टफ आया या एग्जाम में उसके क्वेश्चंस ही कम है तो मैं अलजेब्रा से शुरू करूंगा। विद इन अलजेब्रा आई विल ट्राई टू फोकस ऑन दीज एरिया। So it's more like a preference, That is how you have to go about it. It's like saying that, okay, today evening we are going to eat out. So, okay, broadly, my option is really that I want to eat Punjabi. But if this hotel where Punjabi food is good has a long waiting, so we'll go to this place which serves pizza. Oh, but if the pizza place is too costly, then we'll go there. So that kind of a preference order is what you need to have in your mind. And then based on the situation, you need to adapt. फिर ये नहीं हो सकता अरे पापा मेरे को पिज्जा ही खाना है। दैट इज नॉट हाउ यू अप्रोच कैट और एनी एग्जाम। ओके, sorry, where did actual cat will be like the mock released by IIM or not? Vikrant, looking at the history of any exam, whether it is cat, bank, CET, wherever a mock is released, I would be very very surprised if the difficulty level is same as the mock. वरना तो खत्म हो गया। If they are releasing a mock which is same in difficulty as the actual exam, so you are you're leaking the paper. And I am part of the batch which suffered the only leak in CAT history. Okay, I was part of the CAT 2003 batch. So I know leak का torture कितना खराब होता है। So the exam will not, 99.9%, the exam will not be like the mock in terms of the difficulty level. Okay. The area is saying my scores are fluctuating from 60 to 120. My average is 85. So could you help in understanding the level of each mock as there are 9 analyses? Okay, so there is the remaining will be coming up in the next 4 to 5 days. Probably 10 and 11 is what we'll create today or tomorrow. But broadly in the next 4 or 5 days the remaining analysis will come up. If it is possible for me, I will try. I don't commit on this, but what you can do is just put in the same query to support at test funda. If it is possible for me, I will try and share the difficulty level of each mock based on what we have classified it as in terms of sectional as well as overall difficulty level. Fine. So just a second. Okay, Samrani, tips for a non-engineer. Yeah, Samrani, you're asking an engineer what a non-engineer should do. So my tips for you would be forget the fact that you're a non-engineer. Firstly, simply because that is like putting additional pressure on yourself. Understand that CAT will ask you questions based on your understanding of mathematical concepts. This word sounds high fun, but this is the pure basic truth. That they look at things that people have studied in their 9th, 10th, 11th and 12th, and based on that, they ask you questions. So there is stuff like binomial distribution, PNC, sequences series which I studied in the 11th. Now somebody with an arts background might say मैंने नहीं पढ़ा, मैंने maths नहीं लिया था. So then that is something I cannot control. But yes, broadly these are things that any non-engineer would also have broadly touched upon at some time. And these are logical things. Engineering में जो हम लोग पढ़ते थे, जैसे some people come to me, there are questions on minima and maxima, and we solve it using double derivatives. People say ये मैं कैसे करूँ? So there are different approaches for that also. Being engineers will probably solve it faster using f dash x and f double dash x. But otherwise I would say, and ज्यादा से ज्यादा क्या होगा, ऐसा एक क्वेश्चन होगा तो उसको छोड़ सकते हो. But apart from that it's basic common sensical maths. तो अगर मैं engineering के maths की बात करूँ ना, मैं आपको guarantee देता हूँ, and I'm saying this as an engineer, if engineering maths comes in CAT, 90% of the engineers are going to flunk the quant section because they would have not. मैं आपको ये लिख के बता सकता हूँ, engineers पहले 6 सेमेस्टर में ठीक से पढ़ाई करते ही नहीं है, वो सिर्फ पास होने के लिए पढ़ाई करते हैं. Then the 7th and 8th semester is when we get our degrees, so that is when everybody becomes serious. वो वेकअप सीड के रणबीर कपूर जैसा होता है, there's a pre-interval guy and a post-interval guy. तो that is how we engineers function. तो मैथ्स उस टाइप का नहीं आएगा तो डोंट वरी. Anklish's question is, should I start giving IFT mocks before CAT or should focus only on CAT? Ankish, at this stage, CAT. Unless your focus is IFT. So please decide yourself, firstly, what your focus is, whether it's CAT, whether it's IFT. If it's a 50-50, then I would say अभी के लिए एक आध IFT दे दो, but आप उसको एनालाइज कब करोगे? तो बेटर वुड बी, सी इन टर्म्स ऑफ प्योर थियरी दोनों में सेम तरीके का है. आपको कुछ नया कंसेप्ट तो नहीं पढ़ना, शायद वर्बल में मैं आपको बोल सकूं वो क्या थोड़ा ज्यादा पढ़ना हो. तो अगर आप IFT आज दे भी देते हो तो उसकी जो पढ़ाई करनी है वो तो अभी नहीं कर पाओगे, अनलेस यू आर गोइंग टू टेल मी दैट नहीं मेरी कैट की तो सारी पढ़ाई हो चुकी है. तो आई वुड से संडे कैट दे दो 26 तारीख को, टेक हाफ अ डेज ब्रेक, चाहिए तो एक बार 27th को भी ब्रेक ले लो, दैट्स नॉट एन इशू. 28 को you take an IFT or 27 evening को you take an IFT and then analyze where you're going wrong in IFT. Right now, unless IFT is your main exam, like your dream exam for this year, your focus should be CAT. Okay. AFNS says how many sitters can we expect? So typically, I won't tell you how many you can expect, but typically I have seen around 12 easy questions with some 7 to 8 being very easy. So if that trend continues, then 12, otherwise anywhere between 10 to 14. Samragni, arts background, don't feel sad, that's absolutely okay. As I said, you need to select the right question, you need to firstly believe in yourself, क्योंकि अगर आप उस handicap के साथ एग्जाम में जाओगे that I am an art student and I am going to do badly, then you are already lost half the battle. Okay, tell me one thing. With your arts background, do you go through the verbal section saying that, okay, I am going to I'm going to slay this section and everybody else is going to be behind me because I'm an arts background? No, right? You would still need to work as hard as an engineer. There will be a lot of engineers who will probably do better than you in verbal and worse than you in quant. तो क्या करेंगे? So you need to trust yourself, believe in your abilities, but identify very clearly where you are good in maths and where you are not good in maths. ये identification बहुत जरूरी है. Okay, so broadly I believe I have answered all the questions. If I have missed out something, then my bad. What I will do is, should I type in, okay, should I type in my contact details here, my email ID here, so you can write to me? So I'll type in my contact details and you can contact me on these details. Okay, so this is my number and my email ID. You can contact me on this. Just due to work deadlines, I might be a little delayed here and there, so pardon me for that, but I will answer. Okay, Last after my last webinar, there were a couple of guys who had written to me. I told them I'll get back to you. नहीं हो पाया. So if you guys are listening to me, I will get back to you maybe tomorrow or so. AFNS back. Sir, please don't mind. How did you fare in CAT and were you nervous? Oh, I was nervous, boss. See, okay, there are again two parts to this answer. One, as a normal student, yes, I was nervous because my career depended on it. But as an engineer, वो 4 साल जो होते हैं ना उसमें इतना सारा I can't use that word here, but we've seen so many things happen in the engineering exam that वो एक stage पे you tend to become like जो होगा देखा जाएगा. Okay, and sometimes so you feel as if you are on opium बहुत सारा ले लिया चरस वो ऐसा सूंघ लिया है और उसके बाद एग्जाम में चले गए जो होगा देखा जाएगा. I'm not saying somebody to should do that or somebody should be so light-headed, but yes, your nervousness should drive you positively. It should not create a panic. To tell you the truth, even today, after 12 years of taking CAT, and in my actual CAT, my percentile was 99.56. But after 12 years of taking CAT, today when I'll go on the 26th, I'll be equally nervous. When I went and took NMAT on 7th October, I was equally nervous. Because if I am not nervous, I will not give my 100% to that exam. When आज की बात है, when I was sitting to do this seminar or this webinar, I was nervous. If I don't do that, I will not be able to focus completely and I will start taking the session lightly. The minute I take this session lightly, my performance will suffer. Now, after all of this, it might so happen that my performance might still not be liked by somebody. What I have conducted today might not be liked by somebody. That is out of my control. But what I did today is to the best of my ability. So I'm happy about that. Similarly, when you go for CAT or any exam, you need to be nervous because it helps you focus. If it distracts you from your focus, then avoid being nervous. And please don't mind asking me questions. I don't mind anything. You can ask me as many questions as you want. Fine. So guys, wish you all the very best. And I would say that if you have any doubts, any queries, please feel free to contact me and I'll try and solve them as soon as possible. Thank you so much.